I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners for October the 18th. At this time, I would call on the Air Force Junior ROTC from Northwest Cabarrus High School for the presentation of colors. If everybody will stand.
About.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I call on Associate Pastor Mary Hatley from Cold Springs United Methodist Church for the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty and holy God, we give you thanks for your love for all people and for the creation that you have entrusted to us. We thank you for this group of commissioners who have accepted the responsibilities of their election. We ask, O God, for your protection and your guidance as they continue to govern, that the works of their hands and their hearts and their minds will be directed by your will in the many decisions they must make, knowing that the outcomes affect the lives and the livelihood of all citizens of Cabarrus County, both now and for years to come. Remind us that we are all called to participate in the governing of this county and this nation. Let us not fail to speak out and to speak up for change that will make better the lives of all people. So we pray too, O God, for all government officials, and we pray that in all of these positions of power, they will consider the ramifications of all decisions made. May the decisions of this Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners reflect actions that will create a picture of hope that is reflected in the lives, in the work, and in the dreams of the citizens of Cabarrus County, keeping ever before them the vision where all people may learn, participate, dream, and thrive in this, our home. Grant that we all may live in peace, in harmony, and in hope. In the glory of God we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we get too far afield from the invocation, I do want to recognize Pastor Mary Hatley. Yesterday walked at the crop walk and had several members from Cold Springs United Methodist Church there working with her and prodding them along. And I want to thank you for going out there. It was a very good event held in Kannapolis. Thank you. At this time, I would ask for the young people from Northwest Cabarrus High School to come and introduce yourself. And if you'll go to your left, my right, Commissioner Caruth has a pen for you.
My name is Cadet Second Lieutenant Connor Holcomb. I'm a drill team commander at Northwest Cabarrus High School. I'm also a junior, and it is my third semester in the program.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anthony Orfici. I'm 16. I'm a junior. This is my third year in the program, and I'm the mission support officer.
Hello, my name is Scott Brophy. This is also my third year in the program. I'm also a junior, and I'm the Operations Support Squadron Commander at my unit.
Hello, I'm Cadet Master Sergeant Chris Finley. This is my second year in the program. I'm a sophomore at Northwest Cabarrus High School. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. We have before us the the minutes that were sent out to us recently as it relates to our prior meetings. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is the agenda that we have before us, and with an addition, item C1, which is on page 60, and those found on page 545. G5 is resolution designating Cabarrus County as recovery zone for recovery zone bond purposes and requesting reallocation of recovery zone bond authority to Cabarrus County, an update on the Animal Protection and Preservation Advisory Committee, and we have a closed session as well as a supplemental information on the Food Policy Council. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with the additional items G5 and I3 as a report and L1 as a closed session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. It is our honor tonight to recognize a new member to our Cabarrus County, and I think hopefully will be here for many, many years to come for the benefit of our children. At this time, I call on Chairperson Takeda Rickard and Dr. Pamela Kane, if you'll come forward.
It is my honor as Chairman of the Kannapolis Board of Education to introduce our new Superintendent of Schools. We've had some marvelous people in the past, but upon retirement, we were forced to search for a new person, and we found a jewel in West Virginia and brought her south. So Dr. Pamela Kane came to work July 1. She's already won the hearts of her staff and most of the students she's met, and has met a lot of individuals in the community. But we appreciate the invitation to introduce her formally to the people in the county. Dr. Kane.
Thank you. It is truly my pleasure. And she said, I came from West Virginia, and I did. I love West Virginia, but let me tell you, I say this often, they say it's almost heaven, West Virginia. But I say North Carolina is the promised land. And I am thrilled. I call myself now a Carolina girl. I just want to say very quickly, when I come to an organization, I always very quickly look at the mission and vision. And when I look at your vision that says, our vision for Cabarrus is a county where our children learn, our citizens participate, our dreams matter, our families and neighbors thrive, and our community prospers. I am so pleased to be a part of an organization that's working for the same thing, which is our children. And oftentimes they say, when they ask a society, the question you want to ask is, how is your children? So thank you for the support that you've given in the past. And this Carolina girl looks forward to the partnerships that we'll have in the future. And lastly, thank you so much for making me feel so welcome. I've experienced Southern hospitality at its finest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. Thank you. Next matter, we have a little bit of sad news, but I would call on Mr. Randy Daniels, if you'll come up. It's on page 62 of and Commissioner Privet. Mr. Daniels is deciding to retire from Cabarrus County, and unfortunately, I think we're accepting his resignation, or retirement, excuse me. We don't have to accept it, but Mrs. Strong, if you'll please come up and talk also and introduce, or Jim? Okay.
Randy, on behalf of the citizens of this county, we want to thank you for the 26 years of service that you've given to our Parks Commission. And as the superintendent, on October the 1st, you hung up your hat, friend. And we just want to thank you. And on behalf of the citizens of this county, we give you this plaque for your good years of service. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Jim, can you tell us a little bit more about what all he has meant to us and to Cabarrus County Parks?
Well, a little bit of history. Parks and Rec Commission the Parks Department was created in 1972. They were primarily just doing a little athletics and some summer programs and playgrounds. Somebody conceived of the Frank List Park, and in 1982, it was commemorated by the Governor Jim Hunt. That was Randy's first day as the first park ranger as a part-time employee to Cabarrus County. In 83, he became the Frank List Park supervisor as a full-time, part-time position. And in 1984, he became the permanent employee as the park's supervisor, an astounding $5.42 an hour. He's gained positions and responsible for maintenance. He's become the chief ranger. He's hired and trained the part-time rangers. He's set up reservations and interpretive programs, done wildlife feeding and deer setups, but that's on the side. He's developed all the manuals and procedures for the parks, the brochures. He's spoken for civics groups and schools. He's pretty well represented the county and the Park Service throughout his time. He's served under William Bub Cowan, Steve Little for the majority of the time, and most recently with Londa Strong. He's worked on Frank List Park, Bakers Creek Park in Kannapolis, W.W. Flow Park, North Cabarrus Park, Farm Mill Road Park, Camp T.N. Spencer Park. He's been instrumental in the Frank List Park office, the building of the mini golf courses at Frank List and at Bakers Creek Park. He's built shelters and pavilions at all of the parks. He's planted pine trees with the assistance of the forestry department and stocked fish into the ponds and set up the fishing loaner program in the cabins at Camp Spencer. He's been married to Judy for quite some time, and they're proud to have their son here. And Matt now works for the Cabarrus County General Services Department in the Grounds Division. And his mother hopefully is watching on TV and quite proud of him. Randy is also involved in the Oak Ridge Baptist Church, where he's gone on mission trips, been a part of the choir, has been a deacon, done the sound technicians, and is a volunteer fireman for A.T. Allen Fire Department. He's an avid deer, duck, and rabbit hunter. In his 28 years, he's been in 2 accidents. 1984, he hit his thumb with a hammer, broke some skin, and had excess swelling. 2003, he was forced to remove an owl from a soccer net, and the owl scratched his arms and legs. He will be dearly missed by all the people in Cabarrus County and keeping up with all our stuff at Parks and Rec. So thank you for all you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. The only thing I'd like to say is I appreciate the support of this board and the many boards before you that really gave support to the Parks Department. And I think Cabarrus County should really be proud of what we've done, or what you've done in the last 28 years. We've got a lot of facilities that we really should be proud of, and it really makes me feel good to see those facilities being used on a summer day or a summer weekend when you can go out and see families really using those facilities. So I just urge you to keep it up and keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy.
We do not have, next matters we have is informal public comments, and we have 2 cards. First, I would call on Mrs. Mary Salaz, I'm sorry. Mrs. Salaz, if you'll please step up and tell us where you live and what you're here to discuss with us.
I live at 3762 Lake Spring Avenue in Concord.
Yes, ma'am.
And today I'm here to discuss one of the 11 ingredients of the no-kill equation, which is the trap, neuter, return program. I realize that various animal shelters hold the trap, neuter, return program events every so often. However, I believe it is time for Cabarrus County to implement its own permanent solution for our cat issue. According to a survey conducted by San Francisco Animal Shelters, 75% of all kittens that end up in the city's animal control facility come from feral moms. With overcrowding being such a major concern for our shelter, one would think that the TNR program would already be in place here. Once San Francisco began the TNR program, the percentage of impounds, killings, and even public complaints decreased. If a big city such as San Francisco can do this, then certainly I believe that Cabarrus County can do this too. What makes this program successful is actually a very simple thing. They actually just trap the strays and the feral cats that live outside, and they vaccinate them against rabies and sterilize them. The kittens and the tame cats, they adopt or even foster out to others in good homes. And the ones that are too wild, they release back to their natural habitat. With volunteers, those cats can be monitored. They're given food, sometimes shelters, and health, medical related. The Trap, Neuter, Return program has proven time and time again to be very successful and effective in reducing complaints and improving public health and safety. In '92, San Diego Animal Control killed 15,525 cats, costing taxpayers $121 per cat. After implementing the TNR program, by 1998, the number of cats killed dropped more than 45%, saving taxpayers over $859,221. If this program is proven to work, then why are we continuing to waste tax dollars, and why do we continue to kill innocent animals? I believe something is wrong here and that it needs to be changed. In community surveys throughout the U.S., it has been found that majority of those calling to complain about the feral cats actually did not want them to be killed. In fact, the same study found that public health departments, along with animal control, were currently seeking effective and cost-efficient long-term solutions to respond to the public's desire to treat feral cats. And it is important that in order for this program to be successful, the public is educated on this TNR program, that they know it exists and that they view the feral cats in the same respect as other wildlife. And that is it.
Thank you, ma'am. Next we have is Mrs. Jessica Juba.
Hello, I am Jessica Juba from Concord, and I just want to speak with you briefly this evening and go back to address something that you all have agreed to and that we brought up month after month, is that the kill rate in our county, 80% of animals, is not acceptable. So we all talked about it. We've given information to you all, and you all voted to expand the Animal Protection and Preservation Committee, which is great, and we appreciate that, and we've got some good people on board to help make some changes here. But with that, the next step that we need and the next request they're going to get from us is to vote on this adoption coordinator for the shelter. And we're not asking you to do anything other than just say yes. We'll vote on this position. And basically what we're asking for the adoption coordinator position to do, and their primary responsibilities would be to be responsible for processing adoptions, transfer of animals to rescue groups and other shelters, assisting with the foster care program, preparing animals for their spay appointments. They would be handling off-site adoptions and special events, which we know now are animal control. They don't have time really to do any of the special events because they're also tied up with law enforcement. They would be also preparing all necessary paperwork, interviewing potential adopters, processing adoptions, tracking animal post-adoptions, assuring the animals are moving through the shelter, and providing information on general animal care. So right now, while we have the Humane Society, which is doing the best job that they can do, given the limited resources that they have, given the volunteers that they have, given the limited hours that they have, 16 hours a week, we can't expect the Humane Society to be our adoption coordinator. They are a volunteer organization. These people have full-time jobs. They have limited funds. So what I'm asking, and what many of us are asking, I'm just speaking for several, is that you vote yes to this, that you find the money from somewhere within your budget, or you approve to add it, a full-time position where somebody can dedicate focus on making these numbers improve. It's a key component to the success of what we need to have happen. And so we agree there's a problem, so let's work on a solution, and let's do something about it. We've all been working together very well for the last few weeks, I will tell you that. We've been working closely with Humane Society. We've been working with several rescue organizations, and we just can't count on Humane Society, Cabarrus Cares, Cabarrus Pet Society, Kitty City, Kreitzer's, Help Save a Dog Network, JFB, and many more. I know I'm probably forgetting many that help out, but we just can't only count on volunteer organizations to do the job of what our animal shelter should be doing in a progressive community and what they do in progressive communities. So that's simply it.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Next may I have is the consent agenda, and it's always important that the viewing audience understand we have a meeting at the beginning of the month, and at that meeting we have quite a bit of these items are discussed in detail, and after we get all the information we're able to get a consensus of placing it on the consent agenda, so that although we may not discuss it tonight, a lot of these matters are very important to us, and we've discussed them in quite a bit of detail for the most part earlier in the month.
Mr. Chairman, to point out that that meeting also was televised.
Yes.
As well, so you can
So
watch
if you
that
wanted to see
meeting.
that. See, get more information. Anyway, we do have the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Next matter we have is new business under G1, found on page 472, is a Cdbg Scattered Site Program public hearing. Mrs. Sifford.
Good evening. Just for the viewing audience, I'd like to run over the program and give some information about it. The Cdbg Scattered Site Program is a full housing rehab program for low-income families. There are approximately 5 to 6 families that will receive full rehab under this program in the next cycle, and approximately 5 to 7 families who may receive one item under urgent repair section that is allowed under that program. If people are interested, they may call me at 704-920-2142. Are there any questions?
920-2142.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. Sifford? Thank you. I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Anybody would like to speak for or against the, let's see, Scattered Site Housing Rehabilitation Program? Seeing none, I'll close this public hearing. You have any discussion? We do not have to have a vote on this tonight, or we do have to have a vote since this is the second?
No, there's no vote necessary.
Okay.
We've already agreed to participate, so this is just a requirement of the application process.
Next matter we have is G2, which is the Economic Development Request for Distribution Technologies, Inc., and request for a public hearing on page 476. This time I call on Mr. McDaniels.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Here this tonight to review the Economic Development Grant for Distribution Technologies and call for a public hearing. As you remember, Distribution Technology is a company that's based in Charlotte. They've been in business for 40 years. They're a third-party logistics supplier, and they have located a potential new facility for them in Concord. You may be familiar with it as the former Jevic trucking facility on Pitt School Road. Unfortunately, the facility has come into quite a state of disrepair, and some of the local children are using it for less than pleasant uses. So this is an opportunity for us as a community to help rehab that building and, most importantly, put folks back to work. But Distribution Technology is planning to spend approximately $1.65 million to rehab that facility. Of that, about $650,000 will be actual rehab to the facility, the physical structure of the building and the surroundings, and $1.045 million of new equipment. Most of that equipment is tied to the information technology system Their proposed client has a very high-end IT system that tracks point-of-sale transactions that gets synced into a distribution technology system, and it's all meshed together. So when a product is sold at the store, they know they need to turn around and get it out to the trucks and the other distribution centers. They are planning 65 jobs in year one, growing to 86 jobs in year three. The average wage for those jobs is $14 to $16 per hour. I did pull our current wages for distribution in Cabarrus County. Currently, our average wage for distribution starts at $7.88 for entry level, growing to $15.75 for more experienced workers in that field. Did want to mention one unique request with this project. The threshold is 1.5 million traditionally for our projects. This one is very close, and with the rapid depreciation of information technologies equipment, it is a possibility that they could dip below that threshold in year 2 or 3. So we would ask that the commission be aware of that and take an appropriate step with a possible waiver or some kind of acknowledgement of that in the actual agreement that's worked out. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. McDaniels at this time? This is a new company that's coming to Cabarrus County.
That's correct.
And were there other locations that they were looking at?
They were. We were actually cited by zip codes. There were a list of zip codes that were met the criteria. There were some in University City as well as Rowan County.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McDaniels? I will call this open for a public hearing. Does anybody want to speak for or against the Economic Development Grant for Distribution Technologies, Inc.? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have any further discussion amongst our board?
I just have a question. You mentioned, sorry, because you mentioned the depreciation of the computer equipment. Is that in this? Do you already have the verbiage in the agreement, or is that something that we would need to add?
I'll defer to the county attorney on that.
That's not, excuse me, that's not presently in the draft agreement. And in fact, since you asked that question, it might be well to be clear, are they asking that we do something such as was recently approved for ACN, where they're able to add additional computer equipment to make out this amount, or that it just be given a general waiver that if it runs less than $1.5 million as a threshold amount, that they're still able to obtain grants?
I believe the general waiver would be sufficient.
That's something that we have some standard language we can put in for that.
Any other questions?
I would make a motion that we approve with the addition of the waiver language. If anybody's been by that particular property, I think that most people would agree that we need to get it developed and secured, and we do have in here about the jobs, which is what we've all been concerned about. So,
and one thing I'll point out about the grants, they are the grants are issued based on the tax revenue generated by the project. That's what we always like to point that out.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second to approve the Economic Development Grant for Distribution Technologies, Inc., including the exemptions, the waiver to the program guideline as needed. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And on that note, it just reminded me, Commissioner Minot is unable to be here tonight. She had a family meeting to attend, and she let us know, I believe, sometime last week. So that's the reason why Commissioner Minot is not here tonight, and we certainly do miss her and hope she has a safe trip returning home. Next matter we have is G3, which is the Economic Development Public Investor Agreement Program Update and Budget Amendment. This time, I would call on Mr. Day as well as Mr. Cox. Do you have something to present?
We have a report.
The report. Well, to let everybody know, there was, at our last meeting, we had a meeting the following day on September the 20th, I believe it is, to work out a longer-term contract from November the 1st, 2010 until June 30th, 2011. And there was, in negotiating that contract, both the county, according to the requirements and the request of this board, as well as the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation, and their board, were able to come to an agreement. And that is in exchange for a payment up to $21,833 per month to include for the contract from November the 1st through June the 30th, 2011. And what that represents is an additional $50,000 as requested by the EDC. I think their request was for 100, and the discussions amongst the Board of Commissioners was 50, and that's where the additional monies came from. This is something that we discussed earlier this month. Is there any questions on this topic in regards to the agreement? Do we have a motion to approve the Economic Development Public Investor Agreement between the county and the Cabarrus Economic Development Incorporated for a period of November the 1st through June 30th in exchange for payment up to $21,833.33 per month, and to adopt the related budget amendment?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next is to receive a report from the EDC. As part of this agreement, we were talking about having reports on a quarterly basis after the quarter ends the following month. And now I turn it over to Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Mr. Day, Mr. Cook, Ms. Honeycutt. They're causing copies to be distributed to you. This is a great night for us. We appreciate very much the opportunity that the EDC Board has had to discuss with the County Commission continuing funding of the Economic Development Corporation as we carry out the work that you have assigned us to do. In our book tonight, there are a number of different things, and I'll just kind of walk through you with it. I think the very first page is something that we received from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. I think the date on it is the 11th of October, so it is the most up-to-date report that the state has given with respect to unemployment and, conversely, employment in North Carolina. And just as it is for the rest of the world and for the United States, so you know, for the state of North Carolina, it is still very difficult. Even though Cabarrus County's unemployment rate has dipped to 10.4, and notwithstanding the fact that we have the second lowest unemployment rate in the region, none of us believe that that is good enough. There are still thousands of our friends and relatives who are unemployed and facing a future that is uncertain because they don't have a job. So all of us are engaged together in putting our economy back on solid footing by creating jobs, and in particular by creating local jobs. I give this to you so that you can read at your leisure. I think some of the key points from the state's perspective is that while the unemployment rate continues to decrease, the decrease is a product of the labor force shrinking rather than the creation of new jobs. In fact, the number of people employed has actually decreased month over month for the last 3 months. And it's true in Cabarrus County as it's true in the state. People are going to where they can find jobs, and for those who are remaining, some of them are taking 2 jobs or even 3 jobs, or have become so discouraged by the job situation that they have stopped looking altogether. About 2 pages in, there's a national economic update dated September 2010. It's the most current information that is available with respect to what is going on in the economy. The bottom line there is that it appears to face a long, difficult recovery due in large part to slow employment growth. So what we're seeing here is a result of and a function of an economy that really and truly is global. I've provided for you the next page in something that you may recall, not this last summer, but 2 summers ago on 2 different months, I think in July and August. We spent a couple of hours in each of those months with you at your work session talking about the economic trends for Cabarrus County over, I think, a 10-year period at that time, and we have updated it since then. It shows you quarter by quarter and sector by sector, and this is the North American Industrial Classification System, something that's used across the United States to get a barometer for jobs in all sectors, in all states, and in all places. You can look at where we are with respect to the average weekly wage as we compare to the state of North Carolina. You can see where we are with respect to every one of the sectors that they measure, not only where we stand, the number of employees, but the percentage of our economy that each of them represent. Another page in will show you the labor force for Cabarrus County. And to highlight the point I made just a couple moments ago about the labor force actually shrinking, you can see by this barometer, the first quarter of 2006, we had about 62,000 people in our workforce. And by the first quarter of 2010, it's just below 61,000, about 1,000 people less. We've given you the migration patterns so you can see we're still the #1 in-migrator to Mecklenburg County of all the counties in the region. And conversely, there are as many people coming to Cabarrus County from Mecklenburg as there are actually more than any other county in our region. And it shows you over time what our unemployment trends have been. We've included a page in there that we update you on at least annually, and now we'll be doing that quarterly, showing you with respect to the number of businesses that have been incentivized. These are all those that have been incentivized by the county, either new or expanding, since the program began in 1996. And so we give you the company, we give you the code, the NAICS code, we give you the year, and we tell you whether it was new or if it was an expansion. And you can see over all those years that really only 19 companies have been incentivized to expand, and only 21 new companies have been incentivized to expand. Sometimes we get the idea that we're just continually pumping money into new companies that are coming from somewhere else, and that's not actually true. That's a long period of time to take a look at. But those companies that have expanded have increased the number of folks who work here. The folks who have come here from somewhere else have increased the capital investment, and those dollars circulate in our economy and through the tax digest of Cabarrus County over and over again. As we get into the sector by sector, I'm not going to go over each one, but just to highlight a couple, you'll see that with respect to all the ring counties around us, Cabarrus County, North Carolina, has more folks working in what is classified as the accommodation and food services sector than any place else in our area, in part because that's the sector that they include motorsports in. So that would not be so unusual to you.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
The very first one, accommodation and food services. I'm sorry, you'll find motorsports and amusements, but with respect to the accommodation is driven by, in large part, what happens in motorsport, thus my confusion. Thanks for catching that. And you can just see as you go through, arts, entertainment, recreation, a couple pages in, that's the one where motorsports falls. We are heads above all the counties around us. And you might recall from that presentation a couple of summers ago where we were maybe even in the construction area, where we had more folks working in construction, and now we're one of the counties that have fewer people working in construction. You've seen that as building permits have come month by month, and a few years ago we were permitting 200 a month, and now you're in, maybe just double digits, maybe 30 or 40 per month. Well, and you can read this at your leisure if you like. As this part of the report concludes, and we'll be presenting this to our board when our board meets next Tuesday night. It's one of the reports that we provide to them generally on an annual basis, because it's hard because the data comes so late after the quarter has actually taken place, it's better to get a longer-term view. We have, and you'll see in retail trade, again, not surprisingly, because of Concord Mills, we are above everybody else in the region. We're strong in wholesale trade, which is the last one of those sector reports that you'll find. The next page then begins the final part of my presentation to you, and I'll tag off to a couple folks on our economic development team. But with respect to staff activities, this is not a summary of everything that we do, but I think that it is key relationships that we're working on, key meetings that we attend, essential things to do the business of creating jobs. We've kind of given you a legend to begin. Just to give you a brief definition, I mean, some of those things are self-evident, but some of them may not be. So we've given you from July, August, and September, almost day by day, different meetings, projects, conferences, opportunities to speak to groups by the four folks who are listed or who have the primary responsibility for economic development. We've tried to do this in such a way so that it gives you all of the information that you want, but it doesn't necessarily reveal the name of a prospect or of a client, or even when we meet with an elected official, because we meet with so many, we just place elected official. We're very involved with the Charlotte Regional Partnership. Ryan, in fact, chairs the Economic Developers Council. They meet every month. You'll see that reflected here. We have the opportunity to speak at conferences or for Rotary clubs. You'll see that reflected. The trade shows that we attend. We've thought about the issue of follow-up because that's an important issue to you and it's an important issue to us. And we have wondered, because the events have taken place in the first quarter and we've done initial follow-up, for example, the site selection consultants, 6 of them that I met with in Milwaukee, we followed up with emails, we sent a mailing to them, and we followed up with phone calls as well. Those particular things are not reflected here, but we think over time that you're going to see us refer back to visit with a consultant again, and they work on specific projects. In fact, some of them who are based in other places in the country are already working on projects in Cabarrus County. And I know anytime you work with government, you all have your own acronyms, and so you might see a series of letters and you know what it means, but we don't. Same here. You might see STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You, of course, know what that is. But if you see something that you don't know just because it's there doesn't mean that I do know what it is, but I think I can find somebody who does. The last thing I put on this section, I found from the Research Triangle. It just came out the other day, I think their newsletter. It's that last page of this staff summary report. They wrote, when EMC Corporation sought a location for its $280 million research and data center, the Research Triangle region of North Carolina had the inside track, a 13-year relationship with the site selection consultant managing EMC's project. Quote, it gave us a competitive advantage right out of the gate, RTRP President, CEO Charles Hayes said. Success stories like EMC's keep regional economic developers on the road, throughout the year, building relationships with companies, consultants, and partners that can refer and drive new investment to the region. And in this respect, we think of economic development more as an art than a science. So some of those relationships you have to build and work on, and we're certainly glad in the contract that the language is there that allows us as a key priority to continue to build those essential relationships, not only in this county, but really across the country and around the world, because you never know when one of those is going to hit. It could hit in 6 months. In this case, they worked on the relationship for 13 years before a $280 million project actually landed. And then a chart on the next page shows you EDC activity by staff. And again, this is just a summary report. This is not everything that we do. It's probably pretty much everything that I do because I'm not employed by the EDC, but I do get to oversee its work. But it does give you a representation, a representative understanding of the things that I am involved in. And then the last page for me is a couple of conferences that I attended, one in Milwaukee and one in Columbus, and I just gave you a list of the topics of the sessions that I attended. They all relate to economic development. The one in Columbus, John and I conferred while I was up there on one of those sessions, and a couple weeks ago today I had the opportunity to have lunch with Jay and John to discuss that and how perhaps we could benefit strategically from the work that they're doing or work like they're doing in other parts in the country. And because of either longevity or other people who don't want to volunteer, we're all connected through leadership opportunities on these boards of directors and have the opportunity to speak to these councils from time to time. And I thought the most interesting bring back to you might be with respect to the site selection consultants' top 10 trends. It was the last session in Columbus, I think it was either a Friday morning or a Saturday morning, and they put the consultants there last, hoping that most of the people who've come to the conference will stay, will get up to hear what they have to say, and the room was fairly well packed. And these are the things that they've said that they're seeing across the United States. Companies, by and large, are looking for a place. They're describing places that have a sense of mojo about them, a sense of, some kind of attitude, something that distinguishes one place from another. You go to and you name the city because of its, and whatever it is. That's very important. The business models experiencing transformation, location strategies, they're looking in regions that have it together, especially for consolidations, and their advice there is to know yourself, know what you have, know your sites. And as importantly as the sites, when the consultant comes, the project comes, irregardless of your different philosophies, the way that you work together is exceptionally crucial in putting the community's best foot forward. Foreign direct investment is an essential part of a community strategy. This is the opportunity. This is opportunity-led and not strategically driven. And then the last 7 there for you to take a look at.
Did they give a definition of foreign direct investment? Foreign
Yes.
as in out of the United States, foreign as to out of the county, foreign as out of the state?
Well, out of the United States and including California. Out of the United States. Canada. They talk a lot about the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. One person was speaking about they had been to India and tried to do some development in India and getting it back to their location, and his conclusion was India stands for I'll never do it again, INDIA. Interestingly, the governor of Kentucky is leaving tomorrow for a trip to India, and in February, the North Carolina Department of Commerce will leave for the North Carolina trip to India, and we plan to represent Cabarrus County on that trip.
Some of the things you had in here was talking about promoting entrepreneurial culture, developing or providing different ways for entrepreneurs. What are some of the things you brought back on that?
Well, that related, to the illustration of what I gave you in Detroit. What that particular application, they would say, is entrepreneurial. And as many different people as there are saying they're into entrepreneurship, the definition for what that is as varied as the people who are in it. One of the things that they have impressed upon us is that while a community of any size can have an entrepreneur who is working, it generally takes a large collection of lots of people to make entrepreneurship very, very big. Some people would call David Murdoch an entrepreneur as an example. And others would think, well, he's a billionaire and, works all over the world. He's really not. Some people think it's the one person who's working in their garage or their kitchen and creating the next, and you name what the company is. I think we as a community still have a lot, and I think that Charlotte, as a large economic driver, still has a lot to do with respect to entrepreneurship.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Cox at this time?
So I'd like to tag off to a couple of my folks, if that'd be all right. And thank you for the opportunity you've given us to do this report. And I think I tagged off to Ryan.
Thank you. One of the things I wanted to add on John's presentation regarding follow-up, a lot of the activities that you see there, project meeting, prospect meeting, that was follow-up from an initial site visit or initial phone call. We'll tag those a little differently so you can see maybe it's first contact with the client as opposed to second, third, fourth, fifth, or 10th contact. If you look at the Cell Guard project alone, I think we had close to 350 emails on that project going back to last fall. So as you can see, one project takes a lot of activities and a lot of opportunities to get in front of the client. My portion is focused.
Before you get started on that, when you're talking about the staff activities, I'm assuming you're referencing the staff activities.
Yes.
If you could, I don't know how you're going to do it, but if you could, like you said, break out project conference call, maybe whether it's you name the project or just identify that the project conference call on July the 2nd was the same project as July the 12th or different,
We can do that.
Somehow do that differently, please.
Yeah, not a problem. If you get, I'll actually start off here on project types. What we're trying to, and we're always tweaking this to try to identify the sectors that we're looking at and how those interact with the regional partnership and what the Department of Commerce is doing as well. You can see manufacturing is strong with 52% of our active projects. We have 31 right now, which I've spoke to some of my colleagues around the region. That's pretty strong. Active is a vague definition. In my view, it's a project that we've interacted with, that we've had them on the ground. We're actively working on the project. Other communities view it differently. They can have a project that they had last contact in 6 months. Well, that's still an active project. So every community views their definition of active a little differently. I believe we're one of the most aggressive with active. If it's truly not active, we're moving it into the inactive file. But of those 31 active projects of manufacturing, a good mix, food and nutrition, that continues to be a strong sector for us, building on what's occurring both locally with the food initiative as well as the research campus. I think there's some opportunities for growth there. Alternative energy, that sector is strong. Celgard's a good example of that, not only for the region, for the state as well. And traditionally, automotive and motorsports. We are still the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to motorsports, and we're continuing to leverage that. Our international versus domestic mix, the international projects have shrunk since our last board meeting. We were up to 31%. Now we're down to 15% of those. That includes a French firm, an Italian firm, and an Austrian firm. And those are the companies that have named where their country of origin is. Sometimes we just get multinational, so we don't know the specific country. Project sources, where do we get all these leads from? You can see our breakdown here. I'll go through some of the definitions that might not be as obvious. Economic development partner, that could be a board member, the research campus, the county, any of the cities or municipalities. If we get a call and someone provides a lead, we catalog that as an ED partner. Charlotte Regional Partnership, they're the 16 county economic development group in Charlotte. North Carolina Department of Commerce is self-explanatory. Broker includes local and national brokers. The way I identify those as opposed to a consultant, if you have your license, you're a broker. If you're not, you're a consultant. And then CECD leads, those are leads that come from our activity, or someone calls us directly, which that sometimes you have to tweak those because you'll be at a commerce event and meet a new client. Where do you identify that? But we would catalog that as a CEDC lead. You might ask about consultants. Where do they fit into this equation? Consultants very rarely call counties and communities directly. They prefer to go through commerce or the regional partnerships, but we still have those relationships. We get calls once we're initially identified. We get calls from those consultants, and we have good relationships with them. And anytime we have the opportunity to get in front of them, engage them, we take that opportunity, be it on a trip or anytime they're here in the community. Luckily, this spring we had a opportunity to host some of the folks, a good contingent of consultants who were in town for the commerce event in Charlotte. They were nice enough to have lunch at the Speedway, so we were able to get in front of them and welcome them to Cabarrus County. Most recent locations and expansions, you're familiar with the majority of these. The two most recent are Century Spectrum. They recently announced a 15-person part-time expansion at just off the research campus. Great company, and they're starting to grow. and they really add a lot of value here to the community, as well as Distribution Technologies. We still have our asterisk pending the vote tonight. But, and then also Navant Health. They recently added on to their facility in Kannapolis, and that was a project we worked on initially when they located here. We knew the owner of the building. He built a 57,000 square foot building with room to grow. The pad was graded, and sure enough, here they are. They added on to the facility. So a great story for us and the local community. Switching to our website stats. You can see our visitors ebbs and flows throughout the year. You can see a downturn in July. That's pretty typical as we look back annually. Things just slow down in the summer, and they start picking back up near September when the kids are back in school and folks are thinking a little more about business. You can see our page views per visit. And actually, if you go to the next page, I believe, time spent on website. That's sort of a good and bad scenario, a good or bad proposition. If they're spending too much time on your website, they either really like it or they can't find what they're looking for. So you can actually see in September, we had the highest number, and that's because our new website rolled out in September of 2009. As you can see, they've slowly worked their way down with some ebbs and flows, but I think people are able to go into our website and get what they want, and that's what we've designed it for. And you can see unique visitors are up. That is just people who have not logged into our system before, the IP address was not tracked. A wide variety of international visitors on the next page, with the Russians leading the way with 26% of our hits. We're trying to drill down into that activity and see what's the story behind it. We are hearing that there is more Russian interest in the United States right now. So that's an opportunity, and that's a metric we'll evaluate. New visitors versus returning. We always like to see that returning up because that means people are using our website as a resource, and as well as new. So that mix, I don't know exactly where you want to be, but we're currently there.
Before you turn that page, when we're talking about percentages, what is the number we're trying to gauge?
All new versus returning?
Well, or international visitors. We got 26% that you have down for Russia, 13% of Philippines. Is that of 100 visits?
That's of total. I don't know the precise number of international visitors, but we can
If you
try
don't mind
that.
putting that. And
Yeah.
also the returning versus new, if you can get that as well. Because when you do percentages, I'm always of what?
Right. I believe that's for the past month.
Okay.
Social media, we'll invite everyone to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. It's a good avenue, good way to get information out very rapidly. As well as we have what we call our e-news, a new newsletter that comes out every week. Contains stories from the local newspapers, TV stations, and other blogs and things of that nature. And as you can see, we're sending more, and most importantly, people are actually clicking on it, which click means they read, and view means they open. So we can track who's opening it, who's sending it to their constituents, to their fellow colleagues and coworkers. And one of the things you have to search or have to be aware of is how are people getting to your website. So we look at the keywords. It's pretty straightforward. People are not wandering into our website unless they're looking for the EDC, which means we're targeting where we need to be. But we do look at those website keywords, and those are just when you go into Google, what do people type in? And occasionally we'll find things that we can tweak and put into our website, some of the key phrases so that it pop up again. For instance, the NASCAR R&D Center, when they impound the car, it always will read NASCAR R&D facility in Concord. Well, we mention that on our website, so we get a few hits off of that. We don't want to lure people there who aren't interested, but if there's a way for us to increase our exposure, we're going to take advantage of it. And you can see on the next page some of our websites and various marketing opportunities. We do have Innovator Magnet, which was set up to help with the entrepreneurship in Cabarrus County, as well as the Chambers page with some of the resources that are available there. And finally, we have our Sustainability Council. This has actually been one of our most successful councils. EDC doesn't start many, but this has been a great initiative for us. They've went from meeting quarterly to meeting monthly, and they've actually had a lot of great results. And they're actually, in January, the Chamber will have its first Sustainability Awards for local businesses, and we're very proud of that. And this group has a tremendous amount of information, and we've partnered with Kevin and Aaron and John as well to get the information that the county has and help populate that website. So it's been a real nice mix for us to help get the word out, and most importantly, show folks that going green can be good for your bottom line as well, and that's what we're looking for. So I believe I will hand over now to Anna Lou. She's going to give an update on the Cabarrus Roots program.
Good evening, Chairman White, members of the commission, Mr. Day, Mr. Cook. I'll be discussing the company visit report. To be clear, Cabarrus EDC does have a program for small businesses. It's called Cabarrus Roots. The goal of the program is threefold. First and foremost, we want to thank the company for being in Cabarrus County. Second, we want to help them solve business problems. And third, we want to identify any trends. We want to keep the businesses in Cabarrus and help them grow. We believe that building long-term relationships with local businesses so we can understand the opportunities and challenges facing our business community. Honest dialogue is our strategy. We conduct face-to-face meetings with executives, business owners, and key decision makers in a wide array of business and industries. The purpose of these meetings is to gain better understanding of local business needs and expectations. We accomplish this through asking questions focused on all aspects of business, including workforce, housing, education, tax structure, and overall quality of the community. As you begin to look through the report, you can see we had a very good mix of industry surveyed. The majority of the businesses we spoke to were small businesses. Nearly half of the businesses felt that they were situated in a great location just outside of Charlotte with great infrastructure. Most all businesses surveyed felt positive about growing and expanding their business in Cabarrus County. A third of the businesses thought that even through the economic downturn that they would still be able to expand their operations in the next 3 years. Cabarrus County has a very loyal and well-trained workforce, which is a key piece of information that we can provide to new businesses evaluating a relocation or expansion in Cabarrus. As for community services, the majority of respondents were satisfied with the quality of service provided. In closing, I would like to ask each of you to please provide us with 3 referrals for small businesses that we can visit on your behalf. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you this evening.
A couple of questions, Mrs. Wilson.
Certainly.
If you go back to the very first, where you have Cabarrus Roots, the company visit report.
Yes.
Would it be difficult to move some of those percentages down here so I can, my eyesight is not that great in regards to these shades of colors. I know black and white and red and blue, but I have no idea about some of these other colors. And the squares are a little bit small, so I'm trying to figure out under like advanced management or manufacturing, I'm guessing it's about 10 that you went to visit, or those visitors were about 10. So
Right.
if we could either have something so I can correlate that.
For the number of businesses.
Or, yes, ma'am.
Not a problem.
And if you go over 2 pages where it says the questions, you see it? When it says, if yes, what barriers to growth in this community?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what that means. You don't have to explain it right now, but I was trying to go down and try, again, matching the colors up.
Right.
And I have no idea. I mean, I can guess, but.
They're close variations.
Yeah, if we can get a little bit of a breakdown, maybe that, or just help me understand that, I'd appreciate it. But this, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No, I was just going to point out the same thing, or maybe that was a little busy, the legend was. I think you can actually adjust it so you can take out the ones that are 0, and that way you'll leave some of those off, so.
I was interested in the community strengths and the community weaknesses. Same thing. To to see exactly what they thought the
specifically.
strengths. Yeah, I think that's important to know what strengths and weaknesses are, not necessarily what the businesses perceive to be the strengths and weaknesses, so.
Were these,
Same reason.
on these questions regarding the strengths and weaknesses, were they face-to-face questions, or were they questions sent out by email for?
No, they're specific questions that we ask
Okay,
when we
and it's the
speak with
same
them.
questions each time, so we're consistent?
Exactly. And
Okay.
then we also, if they do comment on, we had exceptional service from the customer service center, then we document that and we put that in the database as well. So we get the comments and they can be provided as well.
When, on some of this, such as community planning and community services, if we could understand what definition you're using, because community service to my client is different than community services that you're probably asking for.
Right, that's right. And it depends who I'm asking that to.
Yeah.
So everybody has.
So we can get a little bit understanding about, and that, I mean, I think it's pretty understanding about regulatory enforcement and quality of workforce. You know, that's, and I think at one point in time, we had a report, if it wasn't a report, it was a compliment about the education of the workforce. I think it'd be important to know, you know, is there anything lacking in the workforce educational-wise that can help in high school or in the community college programs? I'm certain y'all are already doing that, but I think that would be interesting to understand. Is there anything else that needs to be done?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank y'all. Next matter we have is G4, is the Food Policy Council update, and we'll be hearing from Mrs. Debbie Bost as well as Mrs. Patricia Kramer, Chair of the Food Policy Council. And since we didn't get to hear much from Mrs. Kramer earlier, we'll get to hear from her first, since Aaron and Debbie did a lot of talking at our regular session. No pressure there, Todd.
No.
Good evening to all. I'm here representing the Cabarrus County Food Policy Council. I'm the chairman of the council. The council, as we all know, started this past summer. We've had a lot of engagement from our members, as well as getting good motion underneath what we're doing. Some of the things we've accomplished include the Cabarrus County Community Food Assessment. We finished Phase 1. Phase 1 is the overview of the agricultural production in the county. Phase 2 is underway, and what Phase 2 does, it's a qualitative analysis characterizing how food gets from farm to markets in Cabarrus County. It will include focus groups and interviews, and I believe the results of the Phase 2 assessment will be in June of 2011. Other items that we've taken activities in include this past Cabarrus County Fair. Our group was instrumental in designing and helping to create, the local food booth that was at the fair. Not only did we staff it, we also had some guest chefs that participated, and we served hundreds of people a snack size tasting of foods that were local to Cabarrus County, and I know that was a great success as well. I'm here tonight to seek your consideration and adoption of a policy for the county. That county would be, and I'll read the policy, this policy summary specifically. Cabarrus County government employees shall locally source at least 10% of all food served at county catered events and small department-sponsored meetings from food producers within the state of North Carolina. Do you want to speak to the 10%? Specifically here, or?
Why don't we get through this and then we can.
Okay, well, I didn't
go
know
into-
how hers dovetailed in. So I'm seeking your, the Food Policy Council is formally recommending that the Board of Commissioners adopt this policy.
When you say locally sourced, what does that mean?
Locally sourced for this purpose applies to the state of North Carolina, produced or raised within the state of North Carolina, and for goods like coffee, for instance, that is not either raised or produced in North Carolina. It's processed in Cabarrus County and maybe other places in North Carolina, so using producers and suppliers such as that. Preferably Cabarrus County first, if not Cabarrus County, then at least reaching out within the bounds of the state of North Carolina. Okay.
What does that in turn mean to the county if we were to purchase 10% of all food served, like you said?
I don't know what your budget is for meals and entertainment within the county, but it would be, you would keep that money within the county versus, purchasing from outside either the county or the state, again, depending on the products that you used. You would be keeping the money, quote, local, either state or county.
Good.
I don't have the figure, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Any other questions? Thank you. Mrs. Bost.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening to talk to you a little bit about the 10% local campaign. It was launched the end of July. It is a collaborative program between the Center for Environmental Farming Systems and North Carolina Cooperative Extension and NC State University. It is an opportunity to begin to look at and track those expenditures on local food. We have for many, many years statewide known that a lot of people are producing and selling, and people are buying local food through a number of different direct sale opportunities, farmers markets, CSAs, et cetera. But to have a tangible look at what those numbers entail, the 10% local campaign was launched. And so it's an opportunity to help support the local economy. Local for this program is considered within North Carolina. If there are $35 billion spent on food in North Carolina a year, and we spend 10% of it locally and keep that within North Carolina, that's $3.5 billion that we keep in North Carolina. And supporting those businesses locally is a critical step in helping us recover from the economic times that we have. And so it's an opportunity to help farmers and producers, and it's a time to help people be more healthful in how they approach what they're eating, how they're cooking. It's a broad approach to how we look at food, and it's not just buying it, but how are we fixing it, how are we eating it. And so this 10% local campaign is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to get involved in how we think about food. So you can see the website. That is one of the things that we're going to focus on in a little bit, but wanted to let you know there have been questions about when you click on the Join Now, what happens. So you can see that an individual person can join via the website. They track the person through a unique email address and the zip code, and each week the campaign website sends each person automatically an email requesting a weekly update and a progress report. So, and it's very quick, it's very easy, it doesn't take very long, and that data received then goes back to the website, and on the front of the website just a few minutes ago it showed over 1,500 individuals, over 700 businesses have since launched reported that they've spent over $900,000 locally on local food. So all of that is updated weekly based on the information presented. Then if you're a business or an organization participant, you join via the website. Then the partner works through the local food coordinator, and I'm the Cabarrus County local food coordinator. I get an email. SMG signed up through the Cabarrus Arena and Event Center. I got an email saying, you have a new local business partner. Go in and look at the information that they've provided, contact them, get with them, make sure that you're helping them with how they identify the information that they provide, the food that they're buying, those kinds of things. And then we collect the information, the state does through the website on the businesses and the individual basis. And we fill out the administrative form on the website, I do, on how people want to be involved. This was as of September the 24th. Cabarrus County was third in the state with 121 people that had signed up. That was September 24th. That was after I got an email saying, oh gosh, you've had 67 sign up in a week. What did you do? Well, that was during the fair. And the Food Policy Council helped with a live computer. People signed up there. It was easy. And so it was a really wonderful opportunity to showcase the 10% local campaign. As of October the 8th, we'd gone up to 197. And what hasn't been reported yet was last week at the employee wellness program, wellness fair, we signed up 74 county employees. And so our numbers will jump again. So we had gone around Mecklenburg last tally, so we were second in the state with the number of people joining, being involved, reporting the information about what they're buying. And it's truly a remarkable thing to watch that grow. And so we're asking for your support in that process to join the 10% local campaign. Questions?
How do we sign up?
It's very easy. What you do is it says join the 10% local. You put your name, your email address, your zip code, hit submit, and you're ready to go.
Just join, okay.
That's it. Right there.
There'll be a lot of people, another opportunity for us, I know that coming up, since all of our high school teams play each other within the county.
Yes.
Are we setting up any things at high school football games for people to?
And that's a good idea. We have not, we've not done that, but that's something that we can certainly work on, absolutely. And it should say welcome. Once you do this and you submit your name, your email address, and your zip code, and you hit submit, it should say welcome to the 10% campaign.
Apparently, I'm already in there. Actually, not me. My wife's email address is in there.
Okay.
Which I didn't know.
See? Your family is reporting some information, and that's
Now,
great.
When you're talking about reporting information,
Right.
Are they going to know personal information? Are they
No,
going to be
absolutely
contacting
not.
me?
Absolutely
emails,
not.
phone numbers?
No, it's absolutely not sold. It's all confidential, and it's just an opportunity to track the information for expenditure purposes. That's it.
One thing I think is important on here that I've never realized is that you have the seasonal chart, which tells you what is in season for each month. Right in season, view seasonally chart.
Yes,
That
use
pops up.
seasonality chart. It's
Seasonality chart.
and you're right, it's very important because
Big
people
deal.
don't realize that if they're purchasing strawberries in December for a holiday celebration, that if they're doing that, they're coming from another place or they have been grown in a greenhouse in Cabarrus County, because we are doing some of that now in high tunnels, hoop house programs. But yes, the seasonality chart is very important. One of the other things I wanted to point out while we were here on the website is if you go in here if you look on the website under About, you'll see on the left side of the screen it says Our Partners, and under Pledge of Purchase, if you scroll down, it says, you've got right there Cabarrus County. Cabarrus County pledges to source 10% of food served at catered events from local food producers. That's how your your 10% local food purchasing policy has come about as a result of the county signing up there. They also, I hit the wrong button. You also scroll down here, employee member programs. Cabarrus County government is encouraging its employees to be involved in the 10% local campaign, and that was the reason for our being available to explain to everybody at the employee wellness fair, which was very successful. And we gave away 2 CSA shares. Those that signed up had a chance to then put their name in a basket, and we gave away with one of the farmers at the incubator farm, gave away a CSA share to employees that signed up. And so we were able to give away 2, and they just happened to be library employees. So that was really great.
But you also see then under our partners promotion and outreach, Cabarrus County is also signed up there. If I scroll down far enough, they're involved in the promotion and outreach of the program. And so Aaron and I together are making sure that we talk about the 10% local program and how our producers, consumers, and everybody can be involved in this process.
In regards to the foods, when I went back to the seasonality,
Yes.
how would I know where to get beets or bok chow or leafy greens, things of that
We've
nature?
loaded up on the local foods webpage on Cabarrus County Government website. There is a place for you to resource what's available locally, as well as on this website, find local foods. If you scroll down, there's several different opportunities. The Carolina Farm Stewardship NC Choices got to be NC. Farm Fresh, there's a variety of different places for you to be able to sign up as a producer as well as look as a consumer. And under the NC Fresh, Farm Fresh, we've got several different farmers in the Cabarrus County that are signed up locally, and we're encouraging all of our people in agriculture to sign up that way. So they're resourced back to this particular website as well as one that we've got located on the county website.
And if I wanted my kids to enjoy something different, such as okra, or how would I know how to cook it or what to do with it?
We're in the process of putting those recipes up on the website as well, and we're in the process of putting together a probably a bi-weekly newsletter so that everybody that has signed up with a zip code in our county through this website will have the opportunity to resource them with that information, because that's really important.
Any other questions? Well, I do want to make a comment. I appreciate we had the opportunity for everybody who was at our work session to have to taste ostrich, locally grown beef.
From Burr Brain Farms, yes.
Some cheeses, some greens, and it was very good. It was excellent. And then tonight we had the opportunity to have some curry with cauliflower, some squash, I think, tomatoes, so it was very good. And it's also some lettuce some leaf kale and some flowers and carrot cake. So,
edible flowers, yes.
It was very good.
Absolutely.
It was very good. Thank you very much. And I would encourage everybody to look at it and consider it, because it certainly does bring a lot of, I think you said 3.5 billion, it's actually 35 billion.
$35 billion is what's spent, and if you spend 10% locally, then you've got $3.5 billion here within North Carolina, yes.
Thank you very much.
One question I've got, because we have several pet enthusiasts here in the audience, does pet food count as well, or is that just human food? I think I've asked you a question you probably have no clue about.
My guess is it's human food.
Okay.
Yes. That's my understanding is human food, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. Next matter that we have, I think.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we need to vote on the 10%.
I move we adopt the resolution.
To adopt and approve the local food purchasing policy and sign up for the North Carolina Farm to Fork 10% local food campaign. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next matter we have is G5, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Day as it relates to the resolution designated Cabarrus County as a recovery zone for recovery zone bond purposes. This is found on page 546.
There is a program through the American Reinvestment and whatever the name of that act is. ARA. I'm used to the acronym, as most government people are. That allows opportunities for private companies to issue tax-free bonds. The first step in that process is for the county commissioners to designate the county as a recovery zone. There is a business that may be interested in taking advantage of this program. The debt does have to be issued by the end of the year, so there are some time issues to consider. So there's two resolutions here. One, designating the county as a economic recovery zone. The second is asking for a reallocation of bond funds. Initially, the county received an allocation of about $10 million in the facility bonds. This is asking for an allocation of up to $100 million. There is no obligation of the county itself to this. This is all, would all be paid by the private company should it actually occur.
And this doesn't affect our bond rating. We have no.
That's
all
correct.
We're doing is just designating the county, and then the borrower will be someone absent, outside of the county.
That's correct. It would go through the Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Authority, should it get that far.
Any other questions for Mr. Day? Do we have a motion to adopt the resolutions that designates the Cabarrus County as a recovery zone for recovery zone bond purposes and request reallocation of the recovery zone bond authority to Cabarrus County?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. I believe that takes care of all of the business that we have for tonight in regards to presentations. We do have, we're at the point to do the appointments and board committees. At this point in time, the Tourism Authority Board is requesting that we fill seats 10 and 11, seat 10 with Mr. Ray Saporowski from the Concord Mills Mall for the term ending June 30th, 2011, and having a residency exception, and also seat 11, Mrs. Beverly Jordan, to term ending June 30th, 2012, and the residency exception as well. Both of these persons were brought before the board, the Tourism Authority Board, and discussed about the residency, and the request was for the exception mainly for Mr. Saporowski because of the representation of Concord Mills. There was discussion as was there somebody else from Concord Mills that lived in the county that would be able to represent Concord Mills, and the concern was would that person know the day-to-day activities and the importance of driving more tourism to Cabarrus County. So that was discussed quite a bit on the board, and I think it passed unanimously. I know it passed unanimously in support of Mr. Saporowski as well as Mrs. Jordan. The research campus is becoming more and more of a destination tourism issue for Cabarrus County, and she has a lot of insight in regards to the research campus as well as the Nutrition Research Institute of Chapel Hill. So there was a request as well as for the exemption residency for her. Do we have a motion to appoint Mr. Saporowski and Mrs. Beverly Jordan to the seats 10 and 11 for the respective terms ending as previously stated?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That takes care of all the board appointments, and I would ask everybody to look at the boards that we have, because we have some good ones that can certainly fall into a place that you'd be interested in serving. Next we have is the Library Annual State Report, and Mrs. Ur is nice enough, she was here earlier. She couldn't last us out, I guess. But we do have the information here, and she was here for another matter. I was saying it in jest. But we do have that. If you have any questions, please contact her. And we have one more matter is Mr. Caruth, or Commissioner Caruth. You have an update on the Animal Protection and Preservation Advisory Committee?
Mm-hmm. Sure do. Just a few minutes here to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'll point out that we got three of our committee members that are actually in the audience currently. And last month, I can tell you that we had a very, very productive meeting on October 4th. Really, I think moved the ball forward a lot, and especially considering where we were at about 2 or 3 months ago. Just want to go over some things here that we talked about, and The first thing was that I have drafted a resolution for us to should have it ready by the November meeting that for us to consider for approval. And one of the big discussions there was the time frame and the percent save rate in the community adoption program. And I had my socks knocked off that night because I kind of put an arbitrary figure of 50% in 5 years, and the committee pretty much the consensus was from everyone there that we can reach a 90% save rate in 2 years. And rather than talking about euthanasia rate, we'll start talking about save rates, which is a more positive way of looking at it. And so the final resolution will include those numbers in it, and then waiting to hear back from any of the committee members on anything else they may want to tweak on that resolution. And one thing pointed out, Lieutenant Taylor, who's not here tonight, he's at a conference, but I believe he had said the euthanasia rate over the last 3 months had actually been around 60% because of already some movement of getting folks in there to get dogs and cats out of the facility. Beginning next month, he will be able to provide us with a report that will become part of our minutes on a monthly basis. That will be a shelter report that will show how many intakes they've had, as well as how many were adopted out. We talked about the short and long-term solutions for our program. And I've talked a little bit about the realities that we have an election coming up, and right now for the next 2 to 3 months, things will be kind of quiet until new boards get seated and the election's over with. So we had a discussion there tonight, and Ann Cannon, who's one of our board members, agreed to take the lead and enlisted several folks there that evening, in fact, to work with Humane Society and Animal Control to take and publish pictures of all the animals that come into the shelter and get those out to help facilitate the adoption process. And I believe that has been, did not get an update from her today, but I believe that's been pretty successful so far. And it's fostered a lot of goodwill among the different rescue organizations working together. Something that was really exciting to see happen. They will continue to do that until we get the relationships worked out and a new organization worked out about how we want to go forward. We spent probably the bulk of our time discussing what you see before you were 4 options that were brought forth, proposals for how we would organize in the long term and in setting up a program. And we asked that night for advantages and disadvantages to each one. There's a couple here that I was not thinking through it too, without the benefit of taking it back to the committee. I've added to that. They got little stars by them there for you to look at. But we'll continue this discussion because we're at the point now where we have to, we're about to the point now where this has to be the next thing we decide on is what we want to do, because 2 of these options involve hiring a director or coordinator that would, and the program would essentially be a county-run program, versus the other 2 options, which would be to outsource the whole program to an outside organization. One of first to hit those 2 of the internal, one would be where it would be just an additional staff member hired that would work underneath Lieutenant Taylor in animal control, and it would be the adoption coordinator. And so the responsibility for operating the program would remain with the sheriff. That's one option. The second one is do the same thing, but then we would determine who that person would report to, and that the shelter would be out from underneath the sheriff's office and would report to this board, and of course to the county manager. The third one is to form a totally new nonprofit to manage the shelter operations, which would be independent of the county. And then that would involve receiving no additional funding or anything. It would just be an independent organization that would manage that operation. The fourth one would be for us to actually look at contracting, just having a contract relationship in which we would go and there's about $115,000 right now that is being used to manage the shelter operations that's being done by animal control, of actually moving that and making that part of the program, and then gets requests for proposals from 1 or more outside agencies, existing agencies, to come in and manage the program, in which we would dictate the guidelines, the specifications, and all that of the program. So those are the four. We're continuing to discuss those, and just want to let y'all aware of what those are. And then, like I say, that's really the next step is for us to determine that, because that will help determine too. I think Ms. Juba pointed out earlier about the adoption director. That's going to determine a lot about whether we would hire them or whether that would be something we would put into the specifications for a contract to operate the shelter for us. And that was pretty much it. So
Okay.
we will meet again. We had originally scheduled to meet November 1st, but there's several people going to be gone that evening. So we've moved that meeting that's been noticed to be on November 8th, which is the second Monday in November.
Any questions for Mr. Caruth? Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Do we have any, we've conducted all the business. The last thing we have is the closed session meeting. Is there any general comments by the various board members? Seeing none, do we have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, A3 and A4, and to invite representatives of the Cabarrus Economic Development Corporation to join the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you.